Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I am a little late, 30 minutes late, all for good reasons, all for good reasons. So I appreciate each and every one of you for being here, for waiting. Normally these types of things don't happen. I was in a meeting about our upcoming conference. I'm super, super excited about. Good evening, Scott, Sly. I don't know who else is in here. Michael is probably here. I don't know, Scott. Oh, Michael, if he's still in here, hello to you. And hello to anybody else that's here. So yeah, I was in a meeting for the last 2 hours. We are doing something even better. Last conference, unfortunately, there were some things that just didn't work out. So, maybe it was just God's way of saying it just wasn't the right time. So now we're revamping and doing things, and coming October, I believe it's the 25th and 26th. We are doing a 2-day, I got to change this. We are doing a 2-day mirrored conference, and it's going to be, hi, Michael. I'm so glad that you guys waited for me. I really appreciate that. I didn't intend for this meeting to take this long, but we covered a lot of information and things like that too. So lots of things going on in the conference world, and the things that we're trying to do, and the people that we're trying to help, and things like that too. And really, again, bring healing and restoration, or not restoration, sorry, transformation. Ugh. So healing and transformation is what we're trying to do. And that's the goal of the conference, as well as education, and, kind of what we do here. It's just, there will be, I'm hoping to have at least 9 colleagues. And so each one of us have different, lived experiences. We have different niches, different topics that we educate about. So that'll be coming up in October. So if you're interested in that, you can always get with me, because, the tickets are going to be a little bit more reasonable than they were last time. And there'll be videos and things like that too, which will be nice. Hold on a second, which will be really nice. So that way there you can actually go back and watch the recording, and really learn a lot of information from that there. So again, thank you so much for being here. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Gina. I'm a certified neurotransformative specialist. I was going to say practitioner, because that's always what I'm used to saying, practitioner specialist. Tell Alex I said goodnight, and that I love her very much, and tell her not to forget to pray before she goes to bed. And so I get on here week after week, and I educate on mental health and trauma, because there is a correlation between them both. And so I like to bring the education piece from a neuroscience, neurobiology standpoint, as far as the lived experiences and the education that backs up, the way that trauma affects our entire systems. And so, each week I try to educate on different topics. And one of the things that trauma survivors struggle with is advocating for themselves. And so, it kind of made me think about this today as I went to the doctor, and how many of us, we're people pleasers. Maybe we're we still have some shame and guilt, so we don't speak up, or maybe we have anxiety. Maybe it's out of fear, which is, another part of anxiety. And maybe, we just don't want to go against the doctor, so we just follow, or not even the doctor, anywhere you go. And so what you do is you just kind of keep your mouth shut, and you don't advocate for yourself. And then before long, you leave, and then you're like, oh man, like, what did I do? The doctor put me on all this medication, or the doctor did all of this, or said all of this, and I just kind of kept my mouth shut because I didn't know what to say, or I didn't want to say something because I didn't want to feel stupid or look stupid or anything like that. And so tonight, I just feel like it would be really good to, to kind of talk to you about, self-advocating, because for me, I know that's an area that I struggle with. And I'm very transparent on here. And that's one of the reasons I do not like going to the doctor, is because I feel like they don't listen to me. I'm not seen, I'm not heard. And every time I go to the doctor, it's always the same thing. My weight always comes up as an issue. And that's, I've talked about that on here. I'm very transparent with that. And that is just something that really bothers me, because growing up, I was always made fun of for being um, thick in a way. And so when you go to the doctor and they start saying these types of things to you, and then you get your paperwork and your paperwork says, this, like obese or this or whatever it says, and you're like, okay, I couldn't see myself being 150 pounds. I would look probably disgusting. I don't want to be 150 pounds. And so when we learn to get at a place that we feel safe, where we feel seen and where we feel heard, self-advocating for ourselves will come naturally to us. We'll start being able to open up and tell the doctors, tell whoever we are with, whether it's family, whether it's doctors, whether it's our therapist, our coaches and things like that. We'll literally be able to open up and say things coming from a place of um, not so much love, but more or less that of a caring nature for ourselves. And what that does is it actually opens up more doorways for ourselves when we start learning to do that. Because now we're not people pleasing. Now we're opening up the doorway to say, now I matter. It kind of goes back to the self-care. Now I matter. Now I want to do this. I want to do this. And when you advocate for yourself, you're really acknowledging your needs. It's a form of validating your emotions and your experiences, and I think that's a huge thing. When you are your biggest advocate, that's when again, that's where you're recognizing your needs, you're setting your boundaries, and you're actively seeking the support that you need and the resources for your well-being. So when you acknowledge your needs and you validate your emotions and your experiences, and then you understand that your feelings are real and they're worthy of attention. And again, so, going back to your emotions, we've talked about this previously. When you're heightened and your emotions are at a hypervigilant state, you're more apt to snap. But when you're more calm and you know that you're being seen and heard and being validated, and I know all this takes confidence, your emotions and your nervous system start regulating. And so then you feel safe to be able to speak up to what you want. And then you're more apt to be able to tell whoever it is no, because now you're setting those boundaries. Do you see what I mean? And so it's a huge win for us as trauma survivors. It's a huge win. A lot of people don't like to use the word no because they feel that it comes off too strong, or maybe it's offensive. And so there's ways that you can say no without maybe saying the word no. I appreciate your gesture, but I'm just not interested right now. I would love to help, but I have a lot on my plate. Maybe next time. And so it's looking at how you can reframe saying no, but reframing it in a different manner. And it takes skill. It takes practice to do that because, a lot of us will say, oh, sure, I'll help. And then you start feeling guilty, like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have helped. Or then it's like, oh, I had something else to do. I'm too busy. And then we have a lot on our plate. And then that's when the overwhelm starts coming. And so it's really looking at yourself. And again, validating your emotions and experiences. Excuse me. Educating yourself. How can you learn more about mental health, trauma, and coping strategies? And by that, what I mean is like understanding your triggers, your responses, and how you can navigate the challenges effectively. And so, when you go in and you're talking, I'm just going to use your a doctor as an example. Scott says you're not going to believe this. Exactly what me and my counselor talked about last week. Is this really advocating? Is this really what you talked about, Scott? Advocating, or did you talk about something else? So when you start learning more about trauma and you start learning more about mental health, oh, I love it. So this hopefully will validate some things that you and your counselor talked about. And so when you start learning about trauma and mental health and you really start educating yourself and the coping strategies and understanding your triggers and the responses to those, what ends up happening is that when you approach a professional, you know, you have the education piece to back it up. Just like me today when I went to the doctor. There were some things that were said and things like that. And I said, I know why this happens. I know why these types of things occur. And it stems back to my childhood trauma. And she said, what do you mean? And so, I kind of went in and told her, these are why I feel that these are why these things happen. These are this type of this incident, I guess, circumstance, whatever you challenge, let's just say it's a challenge. These challenges happen because of stress, because of my nervous system still gets dysregulated. My emotions still get dysregulated. And so, hence, my body can react in a different way. And so it was kind of letting her know that I understood why my body's doing this exact thing, why it's doing it. And she received it very well. And she said, Gina, I think you are right. And she said, because of all the things that you're saying makes sense to me. And so, in that moment, I was seen and I was heard and I was validated, which made me feel pretty good going, oh, not that I know everything, but you know what? She understands where I'm coming from the standpoint of where I'm coming from. And so it helped me use that to offer some type of education as to how trauma survivors, how trauma affects us and things like that too. So that was really good as well. Setting boundaries. We've talked about that, learning to say no, when to say no, how to say no. And no is a hard thing to say. As I'm getting more into this transformative place within myself, saying no comes a little bit easier, and things like that too. And then there's some days I'm just like, oh, I should have told them no. But it's very slim, very slim. Do I have days that I, or times that I tell people I will help them, and then I feel like, oh, I shouldn't have helped them, because I'm learning that I can tell them no, and things like that too. And, most of the time, if I can help you, I will. I've learned to prioritize what's on my plate. And if I can help you, I will. If I can't help you, then I'm going to tell you that I can't help you. But setting boundaries, again, is about helping you. So people don't start to take advantage of you. What is the limit? What is the limit that you set that people can't cross that limit or cross that line? That's the boundary. Really looking at how you can protect yourself, protect your energy when by avoiding toxic environments and things like that. You know what I mean? And so you don't want to be around somebody that yells and screams and hollers at you all day, or nags at you. I mean, sometimes I'm guilty of nagging. So I will tell you that. But I think it's just, we all do it. But it's setting the boundary when somebody starts doing that, or somebody is, some people can get verbally abusive or emotionally abusive. And so when those things start happening, are you at a place that you can either walk away, or that you feel that you cannot say anything and not allow that to transfer onto you? You know what I mean? In that moment and things like that too. Yeah, I know. I nag all day long. I know. See, this is me. Nag, nag, nag all day long. Nag, nag, nag all night long. Oh yes, I love you too, honey. But I try not to nag, but there's things that I'm still working on that do bother me. And so we're all a work in progress. So, we all have our flaws and things like that too. So it's okay. Making sure that you are seeking support. That's another big thing. And when we are in those moments that we feel alone, in those moments that we feel like we've hit rock bottom, that even, trying to climb out of that hole just seems impossible. Knowing that you have friends, family, mental health professionals that'll be able to support you is huge, is huge on your journey as you're advocating for yourself. Whether you have support groups in your community, a lot of them can help you understand your journey, or they understand the journey that you're on. And so what they're there for is to kind of help you. And so it's kind of like me, if you're down in that pit, I want to be able to put a ladder, and I will go down in that pit with you and help you climb that ladder. We're going to do it together. And so when you find your community of people that understand your journey and can offer you that support, that's huge for you. That's what you need, because again, it comes back to being seen, heard, and validated. And so when those things start happening within you, it starts changing you. When you're advocating and you get at a place of safety, that's when you can speak up. Again, you're speaking up and you're expressing yourself in relationships, work, healthcare settings, and things like that. And so it's coming back to asking for like alternatives and maybe accommodations. And so it's something that a lot of trauma survivors struggle with. They struggle with, again, advocating, because it all goes back to safety. And that's a big thing for all of us. When I'm trying to think, so when you advocate for yourself, what you're doing is it brings, self-awareness, it brings courage, persistence. What you're doing is you're building confidence, because the more that you're able to do something, the less your anxiety or the less fear, whatever, is going to go down, and your confidence is going to rise. So you're going to build your confidence up as you continue to be, your own biggest advocate. And so one of the other things is, and I'll probably have more than 10, but I'm just trying to go through some of them just to give you ideas and things like that too, is like, when you develop emotional intelligence. And so this is, again, it goes back to emotion. So you want to be able to recognize your emotions. How are they impacting your thoughts and behaviors? It's those little, those little thoughts. It's the little thoughts that can start producing bigger things. It's the people that you hang around. And so when it comes to emotional intelligence, a lot of it is self-regulation, again, like the deep breathing, the mindfulness, the reframing the negative thoughts, the neurographic art. It's been a long day. I apologize. The neurographic art. So it's learning the self-regulation because, those thoughts are caused from the emotions. And I talk about this in my workbook as well. And so those little thoughts can come on as little, but then they can explode into something even bigger. And that's what we don't want to happen, because that's when the work that we've done starts going backwards. We start taking steps back, and that's not what we want. We want to actually start going forward and continue to go forward. But here's how those thoughts and being around certain people can kind of send us back, and kind of, what the thought processes and things like that too, is when you're around somebody and they're, whether they're negative or whether they're doing something, that can actually transfer onto us. And then those small thoughts, again, turn into something bigger. Their negativity and the way that they are transform or transfer into, can transfer onto us. So then before you know it, we're negative, we're nagging, we're not taking care of ourselves. We have literally took on how our friend group is. And so that's something that I did, and I didn't realize it, like I told you before, living in a negative state all the time. A lot of the people that I hung around with, were all negative. And so, those were my people. they fueled my negative energy. So till God opened my eyes and was like, nope, off. Yep. And kind of dwindled all of my friends away, which is okay because he kind of cleaned house. So what I want to say is this, whether it's God, the universe, whatever you believe in, but when God takes out the trash, don't go dumpster diving. Those people were removed for a reason. Remove yourself from those difficult situations so then you don't have to deal with them anymore. And really set realistic goals for your healing. As we all know, healing is not linear. It just doesn't go this way. It's gonna be rocky. It's gonna go all over the place. And so it's not straightforward. It's you're gonna have your challenges. One day you're gonna be over here, the next day you're gonna be over here. But the one thing to understand when you advocate for yourself is that failure does not mean setbacks, or setbacks doesn't mean that you failed, however you want to look at it. Because what that does is it makes you look and say, oh, okay, I failed at this, but what did I learn from this? How are you advocating for yourself in the way that these challenges and these failures are good things, but how are you looking at those in a positive manner? How are you self-advocating for yourself in those types of instances when they do happen and stuff like that? And so those are things that, that you really want to take, that you really want to look at in yourself. And so when we learn about self-advocacy, and, in our past, and there is some resistance. And the reason that there's resistance is because sometimes in our past, there was, the powerlessness. And so when we learn to advocate for ourselves, it becomes a crucial part. And so we have to look at reclaiming your voice, ensuring your needs are met and things like that too, because in the past, we didn't have power. Our power was taken away from us. For most of us trauma survivors, it was taken away from us. So as we learn to rise up and take back that power that was taken away from us, we have to do it in a way that we don't have shame, we don't have guilt, that we're learning to rebuild trust in ourselves, that we are setting and enforcing boundaries, and things like that. And so what you're going to want to do is, when it comes to acknowledging your story without shame, so you're going to want to look and say, okay, I want to take back the power that I lost because I want to be the best advocate for myself. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look at it without shame. Because if you remember, I say this over and over, your trauma doesn't define you. Your healing journey is valid, but don't let your trauma define who you are, because that's not who you are. The things that we've endured, they weren't our faults. And so looking at it without shame, and then accepting that you're validating for yourself. That's not a selfish act. It's necessary. So I'm going to ask the question, who's going to advocate for you? Who's going to be there for you if you can't be there for yourself? And giving yourself permission to prioritize your well-being, self-care. What have you been doing for self-care? That's a huge aspect of self-advocacy is self-care. Taking care of you is an everyday thing, not just a once a week thing. It's an everyday thing. So looking at it and saying, what am I doing for myself? How am I helping myself on the daily? What are you doing to help yourself? Are you doing breath work? Are you doing guided meditation? Are you doing progressive muscle relaxation? Are you doing trauma-informed movements? Are you doing neurographic art or neuro art or Zentangle? What is it? Are you doing mindfulness? What is it that you're doing? Grounding techniques. What is it that you're doing that's helping you with your self-care? What are you doing to help you regulate your nervous system? What are you doing to help you regulate your emotions? How are you identifying your triggers? How are you handling your triggers? So do you see where this all goes hand in hand together? It all goes hand in hand. Every single part of it, it goes hand in hand. Because you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, nobody else is going to take care of you. You have to be the main man for the show. You have to take care of yourself. Another huge thing, rebuilding trust in yourself. So again, trauma can make you doubt your instincts or minimize your needs. And so it's reminding yourself, you have the right to feel safe, be heard, and set boundaries. And then, and then strengthening yourself. When you strengthen yourself, it gives you the ability to build confidence, which when you build confidence, it gives you the ability to speak out and advocate for yourself. It's using your voice. That's all what it is. It's using your voice. Being able to speak up and use your voice and saying, no, I don't agree with you. And we can agree to disagree, but I don't agree with you on this. I would like to try something else, or I don't agree with you on this. And it was the same thing today. The doctor said to me, do you take anything for the issue that's happening? And I said, well, I'm really bad about taking medicine, and I am. I said, but I see a nurse practitioner for like she's not really my primary, but in a way she is. I said, but she doesn't really prescribe medications. She likes to do herbs, whether it's herbal or all natural. And so one of the things that she gave me was all natural, an all natural herb. And I got it last year and I haven't tried it yet. And so the doctor said, I said, I have some stuff that's all natural that I could try. And what I loved is that I was advocating for myself in that moment, which it was it wasn't hard. She was a wonderful doctor, which didn't make it hard. I wasn't intimidated. Had it been a male, I probably would have been a little bit more intimidated. But she gave me that choice. She said, Gina, you know what? For 3 weeks, you can try, the all natural medication that you have, or the herb that you have, herbal medication, the all natural stuff that you have, and try it for 3 weeks. If that's not working, when you come back in 3 weeks, I can try something different for you. If you want to go the more natural route, then you know what? That is something that I'm willing to explore with you. And so she was listening to what I wanted, what my needs and my concerns were. And so can you imagine if you're able to do that with your friends, if you're able to do that with family, with your own doctors and therapists? Can you imagine just how good that would make you feel? Because I literally walked out of there going, wow, I actually feel pretty good. She didn't mention anything about my weight. She didn't mention anything about anything negative. It was more of it was a positive interaction, positive session. And our appointment wasn't really a session. I mean, it was a session, but an appointment. And so I really felt good leaving because I really felt heard, seen, and validated. And so has there been a moment recently, or maybe not recently, that you were able to be your own advocate? Was there a moment that you were like, man, I can advocate for myself. I can be, self-advocating to make sure that my needs and wants are not only heard, but are seen and validated, and that I'm getting what I feel that I need. Has there ever been a moment in your life that has ever taken place, whether recently or previously? Because those are things to build off of. Those are things to go back and look at and say, hey, I did that here. I did that here. I should be able to do that again. And it's building yourself up to get that confidence, because it's us that matter. When again, it goes back to self-care. It goes back to taking care of ourselves. And I'm good, Scott. I'm glad to hear that. So Scott says, been working at it, Gina. And that's all, and that's exactly what it is. And it takes time. I mean, I still work on myself every day. Some days some days I don't practice self-care. And then I'm like, oh, well, I probably should have did something today. And it's fine. But it's recognizing that you are changing. Each and every one of us are set on this path of transformation. We're set on this healing journey. And there's gonna be road bumps we're gonna get to a place that we're gonna be like, oh man, I got things under control. And then boom, something else is gonna come up for us. And you're gonna be like, oh man, like why did this come up? But what I want you to remember is when you have those events, those circumstances that arise, what I want you to understand is that you were given the tools and resources to overcome those challenges. But the reason that that type of thing is coming up for you is because your body is at a place that it feels safe. Those are why those things are coming up for you. And so when you feel safe and those things are happening, you'll be able to, again, goes back to advocating for yourself, advocating for your mental health. If you see something, say something. If there's something that you don't like, make sure that you say something. Um, and stand firm against stigma and minimizing trauma. Because if you think about it, society often downplays trauma or encourages silence. Your story matters and your pain is real. And so many people, there's so many stigmas surrounding um, what everybody wants to say. And so society, in the way that we grew up, especially men, it's different. It's different. Men and women, it's different. Society is different when it comes to men and women. And so making sure that you are understanding that your trauma is real, your story matters, and your pain is real. You have to validate that, the things that we've gone through. Mental health, whether it's trauma or mental health. I say trauma because of, but it is trauma and mental health. You have to look at the ways that society looks at that and then kind of look the other way. But, you have to stand firm against that. So, because we know it's not all right to be silent, because all that does is fester up inside of us. And so you want to challenge those dismissive comments with confidence, um, you know, and say something along the lines like, healing looks different for everyone, and I'm doing what's best for me. So again, healing is not linear. It's non-linear. So we all are learning and transforming and healing at different intervals. And your journey is going to look totally different than my journey. Um, well, yeah, you can tell them to buzz off. Absolutely, you can. Like Sly says, absolutely tell them to buzz off. You can, but again, your journey may be all like this, and then somebody else's is like this. I mean, none of them are going to look the same. But it's whatever is working for you. That's all that matters. Making sure that you are getting out of what you need without holding back. I mean, let's look at this scenario. Say, you go to a psychiatrist, and all of a sudden the psychiatrist is looking at you, and and it is, like Scott says, healing is always different for all. Agreed. Absolutely it is. It's never the same. Just like, our traumas are not the same. The way that we have mental health challenges are not the same. Everything is different. Nothing is the same. And so say that we'll do a little bit of a scenario. So say you went to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist diagnosed you with bipolar 2. And all of a sudden he starts prescribing high doses of medication. But you have a gut feeling that that's not really what you have. And you've been working with, whether you're working with a coach or whether you're working with a therapist, counselor, whatever, but you've been working, and so what you've been working with, and the diagnosis, coaches can't diagnose, but they can work with, we can work alongside other licensed mental health professionals. And so all of us working together, and then all of a sudden we come up, and the therapist and the counselor may say, you don't have bipolar 2. But because of everything that you've told your psychiatrist, Now that's what they have you labeled as. And now they're putting you on high doses of medicine to control your dysregulated emotions and dysregulated nervous system because of all of the emotions that are trapped in the cellular level, which again is coming out from a trigger and coming out because your emotions are behaviors and thoughts. How would you advocate for yourself? Would you take the medication and not feel it? Would you take the medication and feel it? Or would you honestly sit down and have a conversation with your psychiatrist and tell them that you don't feel that you are bipolar 2 and this is why? How would you react? How could you self-advocate for yourself? And I'm asking that for this reason. A lot of times I like to share life experiences, and so that happened to me. I was diagnosed as bipolar 2 with generalized anxiety, I believe is what it was. And so I was put on a high dose of medication. I was put on Paxil, like 40 milligrams. You can ask Sly, I would sleep like 23 out of 24 hours a day. Like I was a zombie, like you didn't see me. Then I was switched. I was on Seroquel and Zoloft. And I'm sure there was something else in between there. But because I didn't have the knowledge, I just thought, well, I guess I was a raging lunatic. Maybe this is what really bipolar is. And I don't mean any disrespect by calling myself a raging lunatic. That's just how I am. If I'm not portraying that on anybody else, that's what I call myself, because that's exactly what it was. I would flip out, and there's a lot of things that I don't remember. Sly will say things to me, and I don't even remember. I don't even know. Like it's just a part of those trauma years that that consumed me, that there's a lot of things that I don't remember, a lot of memories that are gone, and things like that too. And I took the medication, felt a little different, but I still knew there was more. Like there was something different. And so when I started getting into the trauma recovery work and really digging deep into the neuroscience and neurobiology of things, really working with my mind and body connection, really working on my emotions, on my triggers, on regulation, emotional intelligence, on regulating my emotions, on regulating my nervous system, I can 110% attest that I do not have bipolar 2. Anxiety, yes, working on that. Bipolar, I do not have. And that's where, when you're looking for, advocating for yourself, it's really looking at, is that psychiatrist trauma informed? Do they understand the correlation between childhood trauma, mental health, and the after effects, and how it affects each and every one of us? Because let me just tell you this. Once you are labeled, you're pretty much labeled for life. And so making sure that you advocate for yourself, that is a huge, huge thing. I wish that I would have, but I didn't know any better. It's kind of hard when you don't know, and I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so, how could I? But now I do. So, before, when I worked at a lab as a phlebotomist, I couldn't get, I believe it was short-term disability, because of my mental health. I could not get short-term disability. It was just kind of weird. And so, because I was honest, things like that too. And so, again, I really want to make sure that you get to a place where you can learn to take care of yourself. And it's okay to disagree with your doctor. It's okay to disagree with your therapist. It's okay to disagree with your coach. It's okay to disagree with your counselor, as long as you do it in a nice manner. You know what I mean? Nicely and things like that too. But, I know other people that have gone to the doctor and their doctor doesn't believe them. And so intimidation, they get intimidated. It's hot in here. So sorry. That's why, like, my face is, I know my nose is itchy today, only because it's hot in here. I had the the heat on in my meeting and stuff, and I forgot to turn it off. And so I'm like hot going, oh golly, it's warm. So anyway, but you know, it's not getting frustrated to the point that you shut down, and then you're not really advocating for yourself. You know, making sure that you understand what what you're presenting, and you believe what you're presenting, and you don't even have to persuade, or you don't even have to, you know, persuade the mind of the doctor or any other professional, your friends, family, whatever, but you're presenting your case, and that should be good enough, you know, and things like that too. So, you know, and really making sure that you're really doing it. So do we have any questions along the way? And just learn to understand that you're embracing your healing, you know, and things like that too. So, um, you know, and there's a lot of, you know, you know, I know this was more than 10. So, and I knew it would be, because there was a lot of things that I wanted to cover and stuff like that too. But if you ever feel, you know, that you can't, that maybe you're intimidated and you feel like, that you can't advocate for yourself, then, you know, it may be time to consider switching to a trauma informed provider. Again, you know, these are providers that are familiar with PTSD, complex trauma, which is CPTSD, and other mental health, and hopefully some trauma, you know, because that's what it is. It's trauma informed. So you're hoping that they have the education piece, you know, in there as well. And so really looking at, you know, looking at all of those types of things too. Another thing that I want to recommend to you is that you, if you don't feel comfortable expressing your needs verbally, you know, you can always write them down. And so it's expressing your needs. And, you know, so one of the examples that I want to give is like, advocating for yourself could be like this. And, you know, and sometimes you may have to verbalize this, but maybe if you write them down, and you go back to read them, it's a little bit easier to read it off the paper than really to try to think about it. Because in the moment of us being nervous, in the moment of us being, you know, anxious, sometimes our thoughts kind of go out the window. And so it's always a good thing to write them down. But, you know, think about it. If you're having a physical exam or a procedure and it makes you uncomfortable, wouldn't you want to say to the doctor, I would prefer to be informed when you're about to touch me, or I would like to have a support person in the room, than them touch you and you get scared and not even realize. Just so, do you see what I mean? So that's, you know, that's advocating for yourself. You know, can you make sure that you tell me when you're going to touch me? Or, you know, can you tell me what you're going to do before you do it? That way you're all on the same page. You're not caught off guard as far as what's going to happen. And now you're expressing your needs. And that's a huge thing for trauma survivors. So not only are you setting that boundary, but now you're expressing your needs in a manner, that there's going to be a lot of growth and development in those types of things and stuff like that there. You know, and then always saying, like, if something feels rushed, or you feel triggered, it's all right, open the door. If you feel rushed, or something feels, you know, if you feel triggered or something feels rushed, or, you know, you're going, the doctor or whatever, we're just using the doctor as an example. And all of a sudden it's just going from one thing to another so quickly that you just can't comprehend. You know, advocate for yourself and say, I need a moment before we can continue. Those are the types of things, you know, just making sure all of that, because it's all about safety for you, you know, and things like that too. So I hope that you learned some things when it comes to, you know, self-advocacy and how to be a role model to yourself. How can you be a positive mentor to yourself? So I'm really hoping that, you know, I know it was more than 10 ways, but I'm really hoping that you took those and really learned something from it. And I know that, you know, a lot of this stuff I like doing because it reiterates a lot of things for me. It brings back a lot of the knowledge for me. when I start doing, when I do a lot of these, it brings back a lot of the knowledge and things like that back to me when I do them, and things like that too, and looking at it and going, oh yeah, and really making sure again that you're advocating for yourself, and things like that too. And especially like, again, another thing, like with my eye, I got my new glasses. This is a pair. And then I got my other ones. And so in bright light, again, like my screen, is kind of fuzzy. Like I can see the comments and I can see, but it's kind of fuzzy and hazy because of the bright light. I even went in and turned my brightness down on my computer, but because I have an LED light, almost it's actually off to the side, but because it's so bright, it does cause some blindness. But anyway, I went back to the doctor after I got my glasses. And I had called when I picked up my glasses. I told the lady, I said, yeah, something's not right. I can't see with these glasses. Da, 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 da. I mean, like I couldn't even see, like 10 feet in front of me, and they're far away and close up. I'm like, look, I can't even see. I know what the sign on the door says, but I can't see it. And the reason I couldn't see it is because when the light comes in and hits my eye, it blurs it, or I get like a gray cloud, like a gray blob, kind of like a gray cloud. And so I was afraid to say something, but I thought, you know what, this is my health. And this is my safety. I mean, I have people that drive with me. Like this is safety, and stuff like that. And so when I called back in and talked to a lady, she literally made me feel like I was going nuts. She's like, there's no, like, she didn't say it, but I kind of sensed like she was trying to say, your eye didn't change that much in the last 2 weeks. And finally I said to her, I said, I just sense a feeling like that maybe you're thinking I'm lying, but let me just tell you, I'm not lying, and I'm not mental, and I'm really not crazy. And she laughed, which really ticked me off. And I said, but I'm not losing my mind. My eye is getting worse, especially when the light hits it, especially the natural sunlight. I can't see in that eye, especially if it's gloomy too. Forget it. It's done for. And then, after that, she's like, well, I don't think you're crazy, but, I guess what we can do is have you come in and talk to the doctor. Well, anyway, because I was an advocate for myself, when I went back into the doctor, and he's like, well, I think it's time to send you to a specialist. Well, yeah. And I'm glad. And that had only been 2 weeks, and my eye has, it's gotten a little bit worse. So unfortunately, I can't be seen until June because of, the eye specialist locally. But I did call and I said, look, my eye's not getting, I'm sure it's not going to get any better, obviously. Shouldn't say that because, God can shift things, but I know it's the power of the tongue. So let me rephrase that. If it doesn't get any better, I have an appointment in June. So one way or another, it'll be taken care of and healed and da, 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 da. But I did call and I was advocating for myself and the safety of my well-being and things like that. And I said, it would be nice to have an appointment sooner. Well, they don't have anything sooner. So, making sure that you're really looking, and I use my life, my life experiences and the things that I'm going through currently. And if somebody else has something they want to, kind of throw up there in the chat, you're more than welcome to as well. But it's really looking at, looking at that and saying, okay, how can I make a difference in my own life? And things like that too. So did we have any questions, concerns, anything you'd like to say? I appreciate you all waiting for me. That's a very rare occasion that would happen. Again, it just so happened that we were speaking about the conference and things like that too, and stuff. So you can start saving your money. I think you will all enjoy the conference this year. And so we've made it very affordable. It's $99, and it's going to be loaded. There'll be 12 speakers. And I think it's like 12 speakers. And then I think it's like $99 for, you can either go Saturday or Sunday. And then it's a $15 upcharge if you want to do both days. Because I mean, even though the sessions are going to be mirrored, some of the speakers may change, but you may go from wanting a session on Friday that, there might be two that you want, but they're in the, in the same time slot, but then they'll be offered again on Saturday. So, I'm sorry, on Sunday. So, so you can get, be able to get a lot of, a lot of the education pieces and things like that with different speakers. And I'm proud of you, Scott, because this is a huge one, removing negative people from your life. That's a big one. Again, for me, like I said earlier, because I was in a negative state, I never realized, that they were fueling my soul. I never realized that. Never realized that that's what was happening until God opened my eyes and started cleaning house. And all of those negative people were gone. And I was like, wait. But then I found myself lonely. It took me a little while before I realized what was going on. And then I was like, oh, God cleaned house. I'm not lonely. Shoot. It's just, I had to relearn who I was without those people. And so I'm changing. And so it'll help you. You won't have those negative people to fuel a part of you that maybe there's still a part of you that is in that negative stance that you're healing. And so, you don't need those negativity, those negative Nancys being in your life right now. And so when you can look at things in more of a positive manner as far as why they were removed, it makes it a lot easier to accept why they were removed or why you're removing yourself from those situations. Looking at how were they benefiting you? How are they benefiting you? So, things like that. Excuse me. So what's your goal for the week? A self-care goal. I know all of you are itching to get out and go fishing. Some of you may have already, things like that, but yes. Yes, I agree. Sly. Yep. Smother them with kindness. Give it to them. Help them. Shower them with kindness. There you go. Fishing, yes. But so that could be your self-care. But if you can't go fishing, what's something else you're going to do for yourself? That's something that you have to take into consideration. If you get a lot of rain or if it's still, cold weather, you need to look at what are you doing for your self-care for yourself? What are you doing for your mental health? And things like that, really taking care of you. Really, making sure that you're really taking care of yourself. So things like that. It's huge. Self-care is a huge aspect of our healing. Huge aspect, a huge part of our journey and things like that too. So hey, Big Malone, thanks for being here. Welcome. So we are talking about self-advocacy and how you can advocate for yourself, whether in life, for yourself, whether with friends, and I'll see. So now I know that his name is Travis. See, so then I can start calling him that if I remember. Really looking how you can speak up for yourself. How can you speak up and put yourself first without everybody taking advantage of you or, a lot of times going to the doctors and things like that. So, and really how you can be an advocate for yourself and stand up and speak out for yourself. So, well, yeah, so Scott said, gonna enhance my calm. John Spartan had a goofy side. And so I like that too, because a lot of people don't realize, but I know you may look goofy, but if you start laughing will change your mood in a matter of a second. Like, so laughter, they always say laughter is the best medicine. And so if you start laughing. You may look like a dork, sorry, but you might, because I know sometimes I do, and I'm like, oh, brother, this looks dumb. But I'll tell you, it will change your mood because then you're looking at yourself doing it, even if you're not looking at yourself doing it. But if you're looking at yourself doing it, then you're like, oh, I really look like a screwball. And then, oh, is that what it is? It's from a movie. Okay, see, well, that's all right. I just figured like you can have your your calm, and then you got your goofy side, and that's all right. And so your goofy side brings in laughter and where you can goof off and you're not so serious and things like that. Um, but laughter is a huge thing as well too. No, don't be sorry. Um, and so, oh, Demolition Man. I don't know if I've ever seen that. I probably did. I don't even know. Probably a long time ago, maybe. But I'm really bad when it comes to, um, well, unless it's like Anna Green Gables or Goonies or something like that that I've seen 500 million times, then I could quote some of it. I figured we did, but some of these things I just can't. I don't know the lines from them and things like that either. So, has anybody watched? And you might not even have heard it, but if you have kids, especially teens. Has anybody heard or watched? And then I'm not going to keep you very long. Has anybody watched the movie on Netflix, if you have Netflix, called Adolescence by chance? If you have children, I don't know if you have teens, if anybody has teens. Chronicles of Riddick, that's a good movie. I remember some of that, only the blind guy and all of that. I do remember that. That's a good movie. We've watched that about 500,000 times too. Um, But going back to adolescence, if you have children, even if you don't have children, but if you have children, I would highly recommend it's adolescence. And so adolescence goes from, I believe it's 12 to 17 as adolescent years, maybe 13 to 17. I haven't watched it yet, but it's a series. It's actually not a movie, it's a series. I think there's four episodes, so episodes, whatever you want to call it. So it's got 4 episodes in it. The first two I heard are kind of slow. Third one is where it really starts getting into a lot of different things. Yeah, miniseries. And then by the fourth one, I think it really showcases. But if my understanding, I haven't watched it, but my understanding is what it does is it showcases what you never know what happens in somebody's life. You never know what kids they're just using teens. But there's a lot of yelling, probably a lot of cussing. I don't know if it's verbal abuse. I haven't watched it yet, but there's a lot to it. But it projects what it's like. I'm assuming living with an adolescence and raising an adolescence and the school, and then how the parents probably become agitated and things like that too. And so that's a movie that I want to recommend. I've heard it. I haven't watched it yet, but from all of my colleagues said it's a phenomenal movie. It's a hard watch, and so if you do decide to watch it and you become dysregulated, I would highly suggest that you shut the movie off, or shut it off and not watch it. Maybe for a little bit longer. Definitely don't watch it before you go to bed. Maybe watch it in the afternoon or whatever, where you can still have time to regulate your emotions and things like that too. But it really showcases and portrays, what it's like, again, living with an adolescence and what they go through at school, social media, and, a lot of that. So, yes. Oh, you got a 6-month-old. Oh, um, yes. And so I'm thinking, so if you grew up, and I know we talk about trauma and we talk about mental health, but if you grew up and there was a lot of, or you were around a lot of verbal abuse, or you're trying to get away from that, I would highly suggest you do not watch it, because there is a lot of yelling, again, from my understanding and things like that too. So, um, but it's one of those things because society's changing. from the time that from the time that I had, sorry, I'm like, oh man, from the time that I had my first son, he's 27, to having my last daughter at 7. She's 7. So there's a 20-year difference. Things have changed significantly. Even in the short amount of time that my 12-year-old, almost 13 and 25, 26 days, even from him to my 19-year-old, a 6-year difference. The significant differences in their life, in the things that they were both, like the music they listened to and all of that stuff. It's like, holy mackerel. It's changing, but kids, unfortunately, are going to get softer and softer and softer. And so remember that a child is watching every single thing that we say, everything that we do. And it's up to us as parents to be parents and not their best friends. And I could talk about that as a whole nother session, but I won't here. But if you have time and you can watch it, watch it. It might be good. And so, yeah, 6 months old. Oh, I just, you know what I miss? I miss being able to cuddle like babies. Oh, they would just cuddle on your shoulder and then you could just hold their little bum. And oh, I miss that. I miss that. And so, yeah, yeah, and it does. I do miss those. I always tell my daughter, she's 21, but I'm always like, oh, maybe by 25, 26, you'll have babies. And then I'll be able to cuddle with them and love on them, stuff like that too. So, yeah, it is, when they do the 20, 30-minute naps, it's rough. Oh, it's so tough. I know. I am so glad that I am, I'm so glad that our family is out of that stage. And it is. Babies are blessings. All children are blessings. Don't get me wrong. They're all blessings and stuff, and the things we have to go through and stuff like that and everything else. So, I really hope that he or she, will start sleeping better, and you sleep through the night or sleep better. So then, you and your wife or, girlfriend, if you're not married, significant other, can actually get the rest that you need. Because I know it's so draining. It's so draining when you have kids and you're not sleeping and then you're working and then you're drained as well. And then, the baby wants to be up and things like that too. So, I've had a lot of friends that, and our kids, especially our last one, she was on third shift because her biological mom was on third shift. And so it took us a while to actually flip her. And a lot of babies are like that. It took us a long time to flip her and stuff like that too. So, and she's a night owl. That child will stay up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning if you'd let her. And then I'm like, oh my word, Alex, you need to go to bed. So nobody else has any more questions, or anything like that. I'm not going to keep you. I think Jermaine goes live probably. Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah. Monday. I had to think, wait, what day is it? I'm losing like track of time. I'm like, man, I need to go to bed. I'm tired. But I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. You can, if you haven't already, hit the like button, and then subscribe. If you'd like to, like my, and just make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell. So that way, you have 3 minutes. I'm trying to hurry. Hit the bell. That way there you won't miss anything. Go back and look at some of my other content and things like that. I will start uploading more videos and things like that too. And as always, you know how to get a hold of us if you have any questions, concerns, or if you just need a friend to listen. Yeah, I know that's what I said. I was thinking that too. Nick's big mouth in the background. He's over there playing Fortnite. So good night, everyone. I hope you have a fabulous week. You're welcome, Scott. I hope you all have a fabulous, blessed week. If you need us, you know where to find us. My door is always open for each and every one of you. And Nick, oh, Dad said to come over to the camera. In the middle of the game. Oh, he's in the middle of a game. He can't. I got you. It's all right. You don't have to.
You don't know how to burn. Hit that follow button.
So this is Nick. You know, you always see him. You got to go down a little more. So this is Nick. There he is. He's playing Fortnite. So when
it's not Fortnite, Mom. It is Call of Duty.
Oh, what? That's Call of Duty.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was Fortnite.
You must be that blind.
Well, it looks like Call of Duty. I don't know. Fortnite, Call of Duty, they all look the same. So anyway, when you see him in the chat, this is our son, Nick, our soon-to-be 13-year-old teen that makes me have all this gray hair. So I hope each and every one of you COD. Yeah, that's probably what he's playing.
Yes.
I like number 3. I'm on there. I'm a guru when it comes to that one. So again, video games week, yeah, and that's the football star. Yeah. All right, kiddo, you can go sit back down.
Glaze me, Mom.
Yes, I know.
I like when you glaze.
All right. So everybody have a good night. I will probably see you in Maine on mainstream. I know Sly is going to go take a shower and go to bed because he worked. We'll see. But again, have a good night. Make sure you subscribe and share out, because you never know in the world who may benefit from this video. So good night, everyone. I will see you next Monday. Be blessed. Good night, everyone.